Values, vision, mission, and goals. How do you know how to set goals if you can't prioritize them based on what you value most? So the industry's been telling us for a long time that we have to set goals, and oftentimes those goals end up being sort of arbitrary. We fill in the blank of what we think we're supposed to put in. I think I need $1 million or $2 million or this kind of lifestyle. And oftentimes what ends up happening is that we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or we're looking at what popular culture tells us, or even our neighborhoods and associations tell us we should have. And it really doesn't align with our deepest values. So in order to be more successful at setting and achieving goals, we've got to take a couple of steps back. So the way that we look at this process is we start with values. So we want to do a deep dive discovery on what your deepest core values are. And one of the ways that we're doing that is through the Human Values Project, which was pioneered by Dr. Shalom Schwartz and his team. This is very interesting because they've identified a set of core values that transcend all lines. It transcends culture, nationality, and so forth. So we're working on going through this process where we can help you discover or rediscover what your deepest core values are, which is a really interesting process, not only for individuals, but also for couples, because you imagine you get people sitting together and they don't realize that the other thinks a certain way, or that the other values something a certain way. So it's really fascinating because then you can start going from values into vision and what you see for your life, like what it is that you envision down the road that you want to achieve, or what you want your life to look like. And it's really surprising sometimes when you make these breakthroughs and realize that some people are happy in an Airstream trailer traveling, right? Some people are happy in a smaller home. Some people are not. Some people want that larger lifestyle, and that's perfectly okay. So it's really about determining what that vision looks like for each individual and each couple. The next step would be to build cohesive vision. So especially for couples and families, you want to get everybody on the same page. It's no surprise that the number one reason that people fight, have conflict in relationships and marriages is usually due to money. It's usually due to finances. And we all have this money mindset. Sometimes we don't realize what that money mindset is when we're coming into these relationships. And behind that money mindset are emotions. So it can be very emotionally driven. And what happens is people descend very quickly into that sort of fear and trigger and retaliation cycle that dooms relationships and marriages because it just keeps repeating over and over again. So one of the things we want to do is get people on the same page. We want them to build a cohesive vision together. Now, how do we do that? Well, we go over to marriage therapy and counseling and swipe the dialogical process. What the dialogical process is a manner of slowing down the communication so that you identify one person as the sender, the speaker. That person gets to talk. The other person has to repeat back in so many words what they're saying. Recognizing that the speaker, the sender, is heard and validated, right? It doesn't mean that the receiver necessarily concurs, but it's just a matter of saying, hey, I can see where you have that perspective, and then they get to flip. What this does is it slows down the communication process. It gets people talking. It kind of alleviates some of the fears. It settles down those emotions. And we find that it's really helpful with couples to kind of go through that process. And oftentimes what happens is in couples counseling, marriage therapy, they're not as qualified on the financial end to talk about finances. So that's where we try to step in a little bit and create a better communications, is fostering an environment for better communication with people. So going from discovering values, moving into identifying or re-identifying vision, then leads us to this stage of mission. Now, mission sounds daunting, right? It's a big word. It's challenging to think about mission, life purpose, and what we really have is this overarching mission in life that's really made up of a number of subset missions, like supporting missions. So, it could be your health, it could be your kids, it could be your career aspirations, or whatever it might be. Those mini missions really lift into an overarching umbrella mission. That's really what we're after. And that's why the firm is called Mission Advisory Group, because we want to help you identify what that mission is and then be able to stick to it. So we go from values into vision, we go from vision into establishing what our overall mission is, and then from there, the goals are a natural outcome. So what's really interesting is that if you sit people down and you start talking about goals, like, hey, you gotta identify goals, they get locked up. And the same thing with mission. If you sit them down and say, hey, what's your mission in life? What's your purpose? Yeah, they freeze up. Years ago, I had the fortune of being able to attend the Human Performance Institute, HPI as we call it, which is led by doctors Jim Lair and Jack Groppel. They wrote the books, The Corporate Athlete, The Power of Full Engagement, as well as some others. And they coached at least 16 #1 ranked athletes. Fascinating program. I was able to go through it twice. They really deal with the physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional sides. So super in depth. One of the pieces was on mission, and that was particularly inspiring to me because it was this kind of deep dive journaling process of discovering what purpose and mission you have in life. And so, and it's also something that we have to revisit from time to time. So what I did was I adapted that to kind of help inform this process, but realizing along the way that it's difficult to sit down and try to journal about mission and purpose in life if you're not creating that vision for yourself. Well, how do you create that vision? Well, the way that you create the vision is by understanding what you most deeply value in life. So kind of starting with where we were talking about goals, let's take a couple of steps back, right? So let's go to values discovery, let that inform our vision, let the vision craft the mission, and then ultimately the goals are a natural outcome of that. They almost create themselves. So when you're reading that page on our website about your personal mission, that's really where this comes into play. That's the purpose of this video, is to try to help explain what you're reading. And all of this goes into the qualitative side of what we do. So the quantitative side is all of the stuff that we can measure and map. It's the investment process. It's all the tools, the nuts and bolts that go into planning. And it's the reason that we're able to essentially run this firm and pass on fee savings to you, is because we're able to automate so many things and quantify so many things and run algorithms on those things and use technology to automate a lot of those processes, that we're able to create these margins where we can compress fees and pass that fee savings along to you, thereby then spending more time on the qualitative side. And the qualitative is this very thing that we're talking about here, and the thing that you'll see on the page, which has to do with the qualitative side of the financial planning, which is really the emotional part. The emotional part is really not for investing. We got to take the emotional part out of that. So this is the qualitative side, all about mission, values, vision, mission, goals as the outcome. That's the line that we follow, and I hope this goes a little further to explaining that. So we hope to get to talk with you further about this. Follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, and feel free to reach out to us by phone or email at any time. Thanks.